right, and welcome to Fastbreak Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. On today's show, I have Mike Zakarian from the Team Hold YouTube channel. He's here to do a very fun exercise where we draft the Western Conference teams most likely to make the play-in. Before I get to Mike and we do our draft, just a few bits of NBA news and notes. First of all, in what should have been Dylan Brooks week for Houston Rockets fans, on the heels of his 39.7 made threes, 5 assists, 2 block performance against Team USA in the bronze medal game of the FIBA World Cup, that week has been disrupted by Kevin Porter Jr., who has made news with his arrest for domestic violence as he has brutally assaulted his girlfriend, Kaiser Gondrezick, who is a WNBA player. The prosecution has alleged that she was strangled and beaten and fractured a vertebrae. So, a horrifying story of abuse around the NBA. This is not the first run-in with violence or the law or off-the-court issues with Kevin Porter Jr. Because of his previous problems, he has this very strange contract where it's a 4-year extension where only the first year is fully guaranteed. That extension starts this season. If the Rockets waive him, they only owe him $1 million after this year. You would think the simple step here would be, once the league finishes its own investigation, is the Rockets are just going to cut the guy. Apparently, the Rockets aren't allowed to cut the guy until the NBA concludes its investigation. Now, somewhat outrageously, the Rockets had Shams put out a report that they wanted to trade him by attaching an asset, which is wild and weird. It seems like they should just cut bait. I can't imagine, one, from the Rockets' perspective, it being worth it to attach an asset to unload him when you can just cut him and only owe him $1 million after this next season. I also can't imagine any NBA team taking the PR hit of trading for him, even if they were given a draft pick. Like, what kind of draft pick are we talking about? Like, with the Thunder, who love hoarding draft picks maybe more than anything, would they accept a news headline where it's like Thunder trade for Kevin Porter Jr.? Like, what kind of draft pick would it take for them to do that? And, like, they could send back Davis Bertans or something. Although Davis Bertans was cooking for Latvia in the FIBA World Cup. So, like, I don't even know what negative contract is out there that's a useful enough player that the Rockets feel like it can help them. At this point, it seems like if you're the Rockets, you're not getting a good player in for Kevin Porter Jr. You look at that roster, you already have Jalen Green. You already have Fred VanVleet, who you signed in free agency. You drafted Amen Thompson. You don't need Kevin Porter Jr. And especially now, like, the league does not need Kevin Porter Jr. with this awful story of domestic violence. I mean, the one trade that maybe would make sense, what if the Rockets would have offered, say, Kevin Porter Jr. for Doug McDermott of the Spurs? But even then, I don't know if the PR hit is worth it. Like, unfortunately, because professional sports are quite messed up, it's feasible Kevin Porter Jr. gets another opportunity. Much like Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges was guilty of domestic violence, and he's on the Hornets again. And, like, once things cool down, unfortunately, Kevin Porter Jr. will get another shot again. But I can't imagine a team trading for him in the next month or 2 months while this story is still so fresh on everybody's minds. And I don't understand, for the Rockets, why it would be worth it. Even if the Spurs theoretically would trade you Doug McDermott, why would you trade a first-round pick for Doug McDermott? Why would you trade a first-round pick for Davis Bertans when you already can get off this contract? Just dump the contract, Rockets. Doesn't make any sense. Awful stuff. Just another terrible instance of men abusing women, an ugly mark for the NBA and for professional sports. Now, in less serious news, the NBA has passed something called a player participation policy. which sort of sounds like something you would do to encourage civic activity or to get the players to vote or something. No, it's just a slightly embarrassing system to try and make sure the star players actually play in national TV games. This player participation policy, it apparently forbids teams from ever resting healthy players. The most interesting part to me, and like the spirit of this is fine. Players should play. Teams should play their players. The most interesting part, though, is teams are supposed to refrain, or they are forbidden from ever shutting down healthy players for long-term stretches. This includes end-of-season tanking, like what the Trailblazers did the last 2 years. This also includes players who want to be traded. So now we're also talking about the Blazers this coming year. We're talking about the Sixers this year. We're talking about whatever's happened with Kyrie and the Nets and Ben Simmons and like those situations over the past couple of years. So the league has passed these rules, the PPP mandates, as they are called on NBA.com, which 100% sounds like something pandemic related. These rules, in Adam Silver's words, are emphasizing that this is an 82-game league. So how will they enforce it? Will they actually enforce it? That is the real question. A first violation of the PPP is going to be a $100K fine, which is nothing. However, the fines escalate. It says the second fine is $250,000, and then after that, fines would escalate by $1 million per violation. Is per violation a game? Like, are we talking about this is going to go up by $1 million each game? So the cost of shutting down Dame Lillard for 10 games would be $38 million, if my math is right? There's no way, in my mind, the skeptic, there's no way they actually enforce that. The way to get out of it, if you get a doctor's note, if it's an approved absence for a personal issue. So, like, I don't see how this is really going to be enforced, but it exists. And now it's something else for us to talk about. The player participation policy. Good job, everybody. We're really doing it here. Anyways, today's episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. With Underdog Fantasy, you can win real money by playing fantasy sports. And for new users, if you use promo code FBBF, not only will you get your opening deposit matched up to $100, but you will also get a free NFL mystery pick. This week, spoiler, the mystery pick is Joe Burrow. If Joe Burrow throws for at least 1 yard in week 2 of the NFL season, that's a winner. So come win some money playing fantasy sports on Underdog Fantasy and take advantage of those new user giveaways. Once again, use that promo code FBBF, as in Fastbreak Breakfast, or click the link in this episode's description and try out Underdog Fantasy. Also, if you want to directly support this show, first of all, subscribe to the YouTube page. And then after you've done that, join us on Patreon, patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Join the listener community over there. There's a monthly bonus episode for Patreon supporters. Plus, you can join the Slack channel and communicate with me there. Also, Patreon supporters of the $5 a month tier can play fantasy basketball with me when the time comes. So to sign up and get all of those benefits, go to patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right, now let's talk with Mike Zakarian and pick those Western Conference teams most likely to make the play-in. I'm joined right now by Mike Zakarian from the Team Hold YouTube channel, a first-time guest. Mike, how's it going, buddy?
It's great. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. Also, just crushed the last name pronunciation too. So a lot of respect anytime they just nail the Zakarian right off the bat.
Good. I didn't think much about it. I just spit it out, and then I was like, you know what? I didn't even check if that was correct. I hope
no need to check when you're right. You know,
just do things with confidence. This thing I carry in all walks of my life. Didn't pay for the movie. Who cares? Walk in with confidence. No one's going to stop you. Mike, we know each other a little bit. You had me on your show last year. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We gotta spend a little bit of time in Vegas, watching summer league basketball. So I'm excited to have you on. And I believe you know this, but we start off each episode with the guest asking them about their breakfast. So Mike, have you had a breakfast today, and or can you give us anything about your breakfast habits?
Yeah. So today was actually out of the normal habits. I went out, and I live in New York City, and I went out and I had a
Oh,
bagel.
coming in with a big brag.
Yeah,
Look at this guy.
I wanted
Big
to put
city Mike.
I wanted to put my city elitism in right away.
Good. Good.
But I had a bagel. I had a New York bagel this
Of
morning.
course you
and
did.
I did. And I had a jalapeno cheddar bagel,
Ooh.
which I will be paying for the rest of the day with massive heartburn, but I still enjoy it with plain cream cheese. And so if I fade off 30 minutes into this, that is why.
Have you heard my bagel bit?
No.
This is old hat for our faithful listeners. My take was, I don't think I had a bagel until at least my 20s. Like I don't think I heard about a bagel. Like I'm talking like, so I'm 44.
Okay.
I'm going to say growing up, I didn't hear about a bagel until maybe Seinfeld when I was in high school.
So you hadn't even heard of them.
I'm saying, all right, I lived in Franklin, Tennessee. It's about 20 miles outside of Nashville, Tennessee. It is now currently the home to I believe Tom Cruise, Johnny Depp, like everyone owns property in Franklin, Tennessee now. But when I was growing up, it was not the special enclave of the rich and wealthy, and often frequently extremely conservative. It was just a suburb of Nashville. And I'm telling you, I don't think we had bagels. Maybe we did. Maybe my parents just never bought them. I don't think the store carried bagels. And so anyways, I want to say the first time I had a bagel, and I have a sweet tooth, I basically was like, what? It looks like a donut. And so I get my hopes up.
Oh yeah.
And then I just take a bite, and I'm like, this is just bread. And again, no one told me to put anything on it.
Okay, that's tough.
There's no spreads, not even butter, like no cream cheese, no lox or anything. I was like, this is just a hunk of bread, and I'm just like, this is horrible.
Then your assessment was right. It was just bread. What you had was just bread.
Yeah.
I probably don't think I had a bagel until I was probably close to 22, because I think as children we would have revolted if our parents came home with bagels instead of donuts. Like, what are we doing? If donut is an option, that is what should be ingested by children. So
it's also like when you have yogurt as a kid and then you encounter sour cream for the first time. It's traumatic.
Yeah, this is not what I expected.
It's like, what is this?
Yeah.
Textures and appearances are everything. But anyway, that's my bagel bit. Maybe I was just ignorant, but I don't think bagels had permeated the Tennessee market. Maybe until the early aughts, maybe late 90s.
I think my only bagel exposure was through Dunkin' Donuts, which I think a lot of people, especially if you live in New York, would argue that is not a bagel. And so now being in New York, I feel like I have to engage with the bagel community regularly to continue to live here.
Also, and how I think Seinfeld brought me the idea of a bagel. I want to say Friends was wait, they're drinking coffee in a what do you mean? They're sitting in a restaurant drinking. What is this? There were no coffee shops in Franklin, Tennessee in 1993. I don't think.
I love that very normal daily things have been introduced to you through 90s television.
Well, that's how we in the flyover states get our culture.
That's great. I love it.
The coastal elites tell us what's going on. We're like, what in the big city they do what? All right, Mike. So the main feature of today's show, it's an exercise that I did with the Eastern Conference with Rob Mahoney a few weeks ago. I thought it was a lot of fun. So we are going to kind of assess where the Western Conference is. We're a couple weeks away from training camp. Yeah. But we're going to draft actually which teams that we think are going to make the play in the Western Conference. And to specify for any listeners who maybe don't understand the exact objectives, we're trying to nail exactly the teams that finish the regular season 7, 8, 9, or 10. So our last picks could be some of the best teams or worst teams. So we're just trying to middle it. And as far as format, this is not a snake draft. We're just going to go back and forth. And since you're the guest, you can pick if you want to go first or second. The only drawback to going first is you're going to lose your last pick. So whoever goes second will get the last two teams which I'm guessing the last team might be like the Nuggets or something. But anyway, so would you like to go first or second in this draft?
I think I would like to go first, if I may. I also want to say I listened to the Eastern Conference episode and it was great. I feel like I feel like this is going to upset people more than the Western Conference. It's a lot of good teams that are going to be like, how dare you put us in 7 to 10? Where the Eastern Conference, the Bulls were like, hey, we're happy to be here. We're happy to be in the play-in.
I think you're 100% correct. That episode was great.
Yeah.
Also, 100% correct. Not as much controversy with the Eastern Conference. A lot of these teams like, oh, they said my name for play-in. I'm happy with that. Like, I'm pretty good with that. And there is more, I think, of this like, whatever. There's these tiers that are clearly defined in the East. Right? These are the good teams. In the West, I'm going to say there are 11 teams.
Yes.
That if they don't make the play-in, not even the playoffs, there are 11 teams, if they miss the play-in, their fan bases will be devastated.
And coaches will lose jobs.
And then there's like the 12th team, which I think might be the Jazz, also has designs, I think, on competing.
Yeah.
And then that leaves out the Trailblazers, who are going to, this is spoiler, I guess, if you've been living under a rock. That leaves out the Trailblazers, who are trying to trade Dame Lillard, the Spurs, who might have a transformational next NBA superstar in Wembanyama, and then the Rockets, who owe their first-round pick, thus don't want to tank out. So like, they want to make the play-in. So I think you're right. This is going to offend people, but we're just going to try to assess who we think are the teams most likely to make the play-in. Also, there needs to be stakes. And for Rob and I, the way we did it was the loser has to treat the winner to any food item in the concourse of Cox or the Thomas and Mack pavilion at Summer League next year. I don't know if you're ready to handle those stakes.
I think so. I think we make a slight tweak though. I do think we stick with the theme of Summer League. I think if I win this draft, I think we have to have bagels in Las Vegas. And if you win, you get to pick the breakfast of choice.
It'll be a donut, or it'll be the I would say one of my most ridiculous breakfasts. They got rid of it, probably because of COVID. It was the really decadent $40 a plate breakfast buffet at the Aria.
Oh yeah,
where it was just like crab, shrimp, lobster, omelets, a tandoori bar. Like it was just all is everything. But I think communal eating is in trough eating, less popular nowadays. So also it's more pricey. So yeah, we can get bagels and we'll get a breakfast. And the scoring system will be basically number of correct answers.
Okay.
And then if there's a tie, if we both get like 2 or both get 1, whichever team was picked later in the draft.
Oh, I like that.
That's the tiebreaker. So,
all right.
All right. So without further ado, Mike, which team do you think is the most likely to end up in the play-in?
So let's upset some people right away. It might be a little controversial because there's so much heat on Anthony Edwards right now, but I'm taking the Minnesota Timberwolves first. I just pick. And I'm like hopeful for them. I want their fan base to be happy. I really love Anthony Edwards. I love what he did. And I like a lot of conversations been like, well, now they finally have Rudy, Cat, and Ant-Man all together ready to play. And I was like, how many games did they play together last year? And I looked it up this morning. It was 27, and they were 1 game above 500 in those games. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, even if they have them, this feels like a 7 to 10 seed. And I don't know. I feel like with Rudy where he is right now, fresh off of that Francais FIBA performance, they feel like they're locked in for that 7 seed right now.
So I agree with you. I think Timberwolves are a great first pick. They weren't my number 1, but they were my number 2. And the way I'm going to do this for all these teams is like, I have a hard time envisioning their ceiling clearing like much higher than like the 4 seed. I feel like their ceiling is like 4 or 5. Definitely. And like, even that I wouldn't predict. Like I have them right now, right in that 6 to 11 range, which is perfect for this, them probably ending up 7 through 10. So I think that's a great first pick. I don't think we're gonna upset that many people. I mean, I had Dane Moore on, I believe it was last week, if not the week before, and he's just like, I think he's a realist. He's like, yeah, we think we can be good. We think Anthony Edwards can take that leap. We think another year, a full training camp of having the Twin Towers, like we could be a very good. I mean, he did think they could be a very good regular season team, and I don't disagree. But with the other teams that are all going to be competing, if you found out that the Timberwolves finished in 7th, that feels absolutely like a very likely outcome. So it's a very very good first pick from you.
Thank you.
My first pick, and this is the team number 1 on my board. It's the New Orleans Pelicans.
It's a good one.
The Pelicans were garbage last year. Of course, Zion Williamson didn't really play. Brandon Ingram was hurt for a lot of this season. Their defenders will say we were in first place in early December, which is absolutely true. However, I don't think this team, I'm not scared that this team is going to go out and win 53, 54 games. Like that seems very unlikely to me, even if Zion Williamson comes back. And Zion's motivated. I mean, he's aware. He seems very motivated. This feels like a bounce back season for Zion. You hope his body will just allow that to happen. He seems like he's putting in all the work to take care of his body this off season. And I think they're going to be good. And I honestly, like as a Grizzlies fan, like being in their division kind of frightened me. Like I think their team is extremely talented, but I also think they might be cursed. And like things just don't work out that well for this team. And now that they've lost Trey Murphy the third, like
stinks.
He's also so he hurt his knee. It looks like maybe Ja Morant's first game back. It's against the Pelicans. It might actually time out to be Trey Murphy's first game of the season. About 25 games in, so like they're missing him. Like their roster still, when fully healthy, doesn't totally make sense.
Right.
Like Brandon Ingram and Zion and Jonas Valanciunas and like Herb Jones, he's not really a 2, guys. And so it's like the roster doesn't totally make sense. I do think there's a lot of talent there, but in a very competitive Western Conference, I think there's like, I don't give them much of a chance of making home court advantage. Thus, they slip down. They seem like a perfect candidate for ending up in that play-in range.
That was my number 2 pick. I love that. And especially because they ran so poorly, like health-wise, injury-wise, all that stuff last year, and then made the play-in. So like I agree with you. I feel like they're gonna be in the mix as long as they can keep everybody in it.
And also the reason why I had Timberwolves and Pelicans top 2, I have no fear that they're going to be 12th. Like I don't like that would be shocking. You know, like, and I have no fear they'll be lower than that. So I think our first few teams here, we're taking them because like we think there's very low floor. Like they're not gonna be awful. And if they end up good, all right, our picks are gonna miss. But when we look at every other team, we think these are most likely to end up in the play-in. All right,
absolutely.
What's the third? So it's your
all right
for the third pick. Who do you have?
Yeah, the third, and this is near and dear to your heart. I've got Memphis Grizzlies third.
That's offensive.
I know. Okay, I knew it was gonna come. And I'm looking at the West. And I'm like, who dips down a little bit? And I know the story around, well, the Grizzlies are actually much better when Ja Morant doesn't play. I think that's dumb.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was right. But it's still, everybody says it. They're like, oh, he's missing 25 games. Who cares? I think that's important. Brandon Clark, right? Like he's an important part of your team too. And he's coming back from injury. And as we just realized, Dylan Brooks, maybe the best player in the world right now after what he did in the FIBA World Cup, and he's now down in Houston. So I don't know. I just think that if they get off to a little bit of a slow or shaky start with how competitive the Western Conference is, and now you can't rest 2 stars at a time, that I think that they're going to be in that like 4 to 8 window. And I think they're going to be digging themselves out of a hole a little bit. But you did get, I do come from Massachusetts originally. You got as everyone said, 4,000 times in podcasts in a 6-week period. The heart and soul of Boston has now made its way to Memphis. And I think Marcus is going to be a great fit. I love Marcus Smart there. But I just think the Grizzlies are going to be in that like 4 to 8 window. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if they're hosting a first round series in the playoffs when we get there. But looking at it, I just kind of see them slipping down a little.
So I hear your argument and I understand it. And I think saying they're in that 4 to 8 range in the West is correct. And I just think you've misapplied some strategy here, because I don't think they're in a 4 to 10 window.
Sure.
And so I think there's a lot of teams still on the board, Mike, that I think squarely could fall between 7 and 10. So,
I think you're going to pick one, and I will explain, because I think I know what your next pick is going to be, and I will have
I'm just going to say I don't have the Grizzlies in my next 4 teams. So
So you're saying that could have been a sleeper pick.
No, I think it's a bad pick.
Right. I meant like a slink. I should have waited on it for like.
You could have waited. I think also if you're doing a draft, this goes for fantasy football, fantasy basketball. Know your opponents. Yeah. You know, I'm not gonna. You could have gotten many later rounds. You could have taken the Grizzlies.
I'm a man of conviction, and I had to do it. And this was more to just say how important and impressed I was by Dylan Brooks.
There you go. Well, now you're trying to win your way back into my heart. I think if the wheels fall off the Grizzlies, we're talking like 43-44 wins, which is still like, that'll probably land up at 7 or something, or 8. Yeah. I don't think they're going to be under 500. And I do think as much as I don't love a lot of the moves they made over the past 2 years, I kind of do feel like they've solved regular season basketball. And like they do have some form of like, listen, we'll be fine. We'll be over 500 no matter what, no matter who plays. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong there.
You got a great coach. I could see it. It.
So I'm glad this has left me now many teams that I feel much more confident in. I'm for my 3rd pick, actually for the 4th pick overall, my 2nd pick, I'm going to take the Oklahoma City Thunder.
I knew it.
I think Shea, with the things he probably learned from Dylan Brooks this summer at the FIBA World Cup, he can transition that into some winning basketball. I think the Thunder might be awesome, but I think I already have proof of concept that when everything like works well for the Grizzlies, guess what? They are regular season awesome. When everything works well for the Kings, guess what? They are regular season awesome. Also, we have other teams I think are going to certainly finish ahead of the Thunder, like the Lakers and the Suns and the Nuggets. And so with all those teams there, without the proof of concept that, hey, Shea can lead a 50-win team. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying for me, it seems more likely they end up, again, I'm going to do what you said. Like you said, Grizzlies 4-8. I think Thunder are like 5-10. And so I like the fact that, all right, if they hit the upper end of that, all right, so I miss out, but I still have those 4 spots, 7 through 10, as being a probable outcome. I do think this team's going to win, like last year, I think they won 40. And I think a 5-game improvement gets them at 45, and that could easily put them in the play. And so I'm thrilled, honestly, to pick up the Thunder with my 4th pick.
I think it is a great pick, but let me tell you something. They are 15th on my board. And here's why. Because I have spent the entire summer saying that the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to host a playoff series. And if and I've been doing that all summer, and I thought it would have just been I would be betraying myself if I picked them at any point. So I was refusing to pick them. It's also why I took the first pick. So at no point would I be required to take the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I agree with everything that you said. That 5-8 range probably is, I think, where they ultimately will finish. But I think like the Chet Holmgren piece is going to be so huge for them, because that was the one position that they really were lacking. And the fact that they rebounded the way they did without really having a big was pretty incredible. And now they're going to add that in. And he also spaces for the floor a little bit more for him. And you're right. I mean, Shea's just incredible. He is so fun to watch, and he's fun to root for too. So yes, it's a good pick, but I will not pick it. So I'm glad you did.
I feel like you're going to be buying me whatever breakfast I want in Vegas, but I like it so far. All right. So the Timberwolves, the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, and Thunder are off the board. Who will be your 3rd pick?
I'm going to go down to Dallas, and I'm going to take the Mavericks. And I think honestly, they could have been the first pick, because I don't see a world in which they finish top 4 or 5 really. But I also think they can't do what they did last year and just punt the last couple of games. I don't really believe in the Luka Kyrie setup. I know they made a couple of nice moves around the edges, like adding Grant Williams and Dante Exum. The return of Exum to the NBA is exciting.
That's a good pull.
But I just don't see a world in which they're winning like 52 games. Even if Luka's the best player in the planet next year, I still don't see a world in which they are hosting a playoff series. So, but I'm taking Dallas.
I think it's a good pick. That they were next up for me. So I don't need to wax on about it. I think it's the right pick. I do think if they can get their defense back where they were, like Luka can carry them. I think 52 wins is totally reasonable. So like they have the upper side there, but also like they're not going to miss the play in again. I'd be stunned. even if they're on pace to do that, I think they're going to make a drastic trade, and like they're going to be attaching assets to like try to improve, because suddenly all this dumb like, where's Giannis going to go and where's Anthony Edwards going to go? It's going to be 100% just Luka talk all season. So
Right.
I think that pressure is going to be a lot. So yeah, I think it's a good pick. I did have the Dallas right, the Mavericks right with my pick that I'm going to take. I have them right with the Clippers. So I'll take the Clippers for my team. Again, I'm aiming for teams that I think, like, we have proof of concept. This has been a play-in team. Like they have not ever really excelled with the Paul George Kawhi outside of the first year. And I just think that's where they're going to be. It's going to be hard for them. Like if I'm picking, I mean, basically this is the hard exercise where like, if you had me pick play-in or playoffs, I probably would say playoffs. Like I think it's more than 50%. They make the playoffs or they finish as a top 6 seed. But unfortunately, we've already hit the point of the exercise where I had to pick somebody where I'm like, you know what? I'll take a 42% chance of the Clippers being in the play-in. So I'll go with the Clippers with my third pick.
I like that pick. That was my next pick as well. And now we're in a dicey situation where I don't really love any of the options that are left, and I almost feel bad picking this team next. But you know what? We've already made a bunch of picks, so I think it's fine. I'm lighting the beam. And I'm putting the Kings in the play-in. Like the case against them is that I think they suffered no injuries. Like,
correct. Like their starters played every game or whatever.
But then I immediately am like, well, Keegan Murray, maybe he takes a leap, and Davion Mitchell's been throwing together mixtape videos that we get to watch on the offseason. He's very good now. And then another year with Mike Brown. So I know there's all of the reasons why it shouldn't happen, but they did really run pure with their injury luck. And again, you just like, look, the West is so freaking good, and like the Suns get better, the Nuggets are still probably going to win a ton of regular season games. You've got all the teams that we've listed so far. So I think we're going to Sacktown. We're lighting the beam. We're putting them in the 7 seed.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly who I had. Just repeating myself. Yeah, maybe they have solved the regular season like they did last year, and yeah, maybe they're the 2 seed or the 3 seed again, but I think probability says they're going to be somewhere in that like 3 to 10 range. And so, yeah, I think it's a good pick. That's who I had next. I guess my next pick, I think my next pick might be controversial, but I think stronger about it than any of the other teams. So we have 6 teams have been taken. We have 8 teams left. I think I'm going to pick a team who I think is one of the best teams in the West. So it might be a bad strategy by me. I'm taking the Los Angeles Lakers. I think they're one of the 4 teams most likely to win the West in the playoffs. But now we're at this point of the draft where it's like, there's a chance they don't put it all together in the regular season. And also, this is the same franchise the last 3 regular seasons that have finished 7th, 11th, and 7th.
Yeah.
And LeBron's a year older. They did just pick up Christian Wood, who's never made the playoffs in his career.
Yeah, man. And the Christian Wood dialogue for a couple of days was a lot of fun. It's just like, okay, congrats, guys.
Again, before the Lakers come at me, I think the Lakers are either the 2nd or 3rd best team in the West.
Same.
But playing this game, and I'm looking at the probabilities the team finishes down in 7th again, I guess give me the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't think they're going to bottom out. Like, so I'll say I was considering the Jazz here, but like, I would be really surprised if the Jazz finish in the top 8 or 9. And so I'm just aiming for I'm not going to take the Jazz just hoping they make the 10th seed in this game. Right. So I guess I'm going to take the Lakers and think they could fall back. They don't have that floor. They're not going to bottom out, but like they have not solved the regular season. And so I think they could end up with fewer wins than a lot of people are expecting.
And they're not worried about finishing 2nd or 1st. You know what I mean? Like that's not their trajectory. They don't care about that. They're just like, let's be set up for the playoffs, which I think like for my next pick is a similar thing. And they were flirting with the play-in the whole entire season. And now they add Chris Paul to the mix. And so I'm taking the Golden State Warriors. And I think it's because they don't care as much about the regular season. I think if they believe if they are healthy, they can beat anybody. So they don't care if they finish 3rd or 8th. And they have to do, in order for them to be like a top 3 team in the West, they have to do what the Kings did last year and nobody get hurt, right? Because their depth has been obliterated. And their depth now is Chris Paul, who is also someone that's like, hey, I'm probably going to miss 25 games. So I don't know. And Steph's a year older, and Steph's incredible. I'm not wishing injury on anybody, but Clay's a year older, and we saw Clay kind of regress a little bit, even though he shot really well there down the second half of the season. And Draymond, so, and fresh off of knocking somebody out, a teammate out. I don't know. I don't know if the vibes immediately get better just because they traded the guy that got punched. So I don't know. I'm taking Golden State there, and I don't feel great about it, but
I had the worries a little bit lower, but like you say, they're pretty old. They've messed around a couple of years, barely avoided the play-in, and then Chris Paul's not going to start. And like you tell me that locker room's going to be cool the whole year. I could see it going poorly. My pick for we're now on the 8th pick overall. I'm going to take a team that most people are picking to be the Nuggets' best competition in the West. I'm taking the Suns.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm out on the Suns. I think, of course, when healthy, top 3 or 4 team in the West, no problem. Kevin Durant has injury issues. When's the last time you saw a healthy Bradley Beal? Like, that doesn't happen.
2020.
There's no depth on this team whatsoever.
Yeah.
Their only rebounder is DeAndre Ayton, basically. Yeah. I know they're getting praised for all their minimum signings, but like, I don't know if taking like 8th, 9th, 10th men off of lottery teams is gonna turn into we're a contender and we have a full roster. Now, again, I think they're more likely to win 55 games than to make the play-in.
Right.
But now with this exercise, I guess like they're more likely to make the 7 or 8 seed than like the Rockets are.
Right.
So I'm taking the Suns. Yeah, I'm taking the Suns.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense. And same thing, like if they're another team that probably don't care about winning the West in the regular season. I can't imagine that's what their goal is. So I like that pick. All right. I can't tell if I want to do the safe route or go a little spicy for spice sake. But let's do it. Let's add a little spice to it. What if the Blazers don't trade Dame?
Wow.
Let's do it. Dame's staying in Portland. All right. Let's keep Dame in Portland. They get off to a fun start because they don't find a trade partner right away. They're like, hey, maybe we should trade Simons to get better now.
Okay.
Right. And then all of a sudden they're, winning 41 games and are the 10 seed. Dame's got too much pride. He feels bad. I don't know. It's probably very unlikely, but I like it. I like the idea that they start the season like they do what the Jazz did last year. They just get hot. They get like 12-2 to start the season. And they're like, all right, let's ride.
It's a wild pick, Mike.
Thank you.
I mean, if our NBA actually incentivized every team to see how high they could finish in the standings each year, if it was more like the Premier League where you're like, hey, finishing 9th is better than finishing 18th. Like there's no benefit to losing basketball games.
Right.
Yes, the Blazers right now have enough talent where they would be a fun, entertaining basketball team that would win 60 or 65% of its home games. And it would probably struggle on the road. And like, it'd be a lot of fun. If you're in Portland, let's go watch the Trailblazers play. Like what I'm describing right now is a sports team.
Yeah.
Like what if they were just a fun sports team instead of playing in a league where the league has to pass rules to incentivize player participation?
Oh my gosh.
And again, this is not the players want to play. This is for the teams who are like, our best chance at winning a title is we think to rest some of our guys a lot, to play them less in the regular season. And once we realize we're not going to have, I don't know, we're not going to be have a 5% chance at a title, we're going to lose all our games and try to better improve our draft pick. It's a messed up league we have.
It's brutal.
So your pick would make sense if we lived in a better world, but we don't, Mike.
Well, so let's update the scoreboard there. That is 2 bad picks for Team Zakarian.
Yeah, you took teams I had much lower. That's all I'm saying. You took I mean, listen, you could be right.
Yeah.
It's midway through September.
It's early.
I don't know if I warned you how much I would badger you when you came on, but
no, this is perfect.
I think the Trailblazers are talented. I think Scoot Henderson might be incredible.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, they aren't going to try to win games.
What if they trade? So to trade Damian Lillard, they have to get something back.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know what that is now. I don't know what point of the life cycle of basketball we've hit. Like, are they going to get Tyler Hero and move him somewhere else? I don't even know what the theories are anymore.
My favorite thing from the FIBA World Cup coming from fans, specifically Miami Heat fans, have been like, do you think Nikola Jovic's performance?
Jovic looks really good.
But I like the idea that no one in the Blazers organization had ever seen Jovic play until the FIBA World Cup. They're like, oh, maybe this is a good deal.
Okay. Here's a thought where you could be absolutely right with your Trailblazers pick. Even if Dame Lillard, if it gets traded, so let's say he gets traded for let's say it's Duncan Robinson and Jovic and Jaquez or whatever. Like, what if Scoot Henderson is that dude?
Yeah.
Let's
away.
Let's back it up. Let's back it up to John Morant's first year.
Mm-hmm.
You could imagine what if Scoot Henderson is the same level of impact John Morant. I would say draft stock. I'm not a draft guy, but I would say if you compare the draft stock of Ja and the draft stock of Scoot Henderson, maybe Scoot Henderson is thought of as being a better prospect.
Yeah.
The Grizzlies were unanimously picked to be the worst team in the Western Conference. Ja Morant's rookie year. They made the play-in. It was the first year of the play-in. They were competitive because Ja Morant was that guy. And so maybe Scoot does it.
So this is a great pick. I'm glad we've completely circled the wagons. This is a great pick.
You had me come back around. I don't need to be dogmatic in the offseason about who's going to be terrible. I mean, they have some talent.
They do. I mean, they still have Jeremy Grant there. They still have Simons.
Like, I mean, what if Shaedon Sharp blows up? Like,
absolutely. I do like Shaedon Sharp. He's a lot of fun.
All right. That's a good pick.
Let's go League Pass team. There we go.
That's a good pick for your 9th pick.
Thank you.
I'm going to pick with my 10th pick. I'm going to take the Utah Jazz now. Now's where I'm going to take the Jazz.
That was the right pick. That was the right pick.
They are, last year they seemed like it seemed like they would have made the play-in if they wanted to, but they didn't want to. I don't know if they caught people off guard last year. I don't know if Lauri Markkanen made some kind of leap. I don't know if just what it was, but they were very competitive. They were very, very good. Now Walker Kessler is going to be a year older. They picked up John Collins for nothing. Maybe John Collins can get his hand back together and learn to shoot again.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a tough team. It's just there's 11 teams I feel better about in the Western Conference. So, like, I don't think there's much upside there. But at this point in the draft, it's like, I don't think they're going to tank out. They could tank out.
Right.
They could just be like, you know what? It's not our year again. Let's go into the draft one more time.
They remind me a little bit of the Brooklyn Nets when you did the Eastern Conference draft, just in the sense that, like, are they a team that makes weird moves at the deadline because they're like, hey, we're not trying to get in there yet. We're not trying to make a run yet. But I love the Jazz. I love their young guys too. I mean, Keontae George looked awesome.
He looks great in Summer League. Wow.
Dude, he looks so good. And who's the other lottery pick? That
Taylor Hendricks.
Yeah. So I love that pick. I mean, I want them to be good. I want them to, like, I'm enjoying the Lauri Markkanen renaissance. I want them to be fun. And like Colin Sexton, they didn't have him at all. I don't know. I want Colin Sexton to get a little love too. So I like that pick.
They could be a fun. They could be a fun team. So I feel pretty good getting them 10th in the draft. All right, we got a few picks left. Who do you want to go? Now we're to basically one good team and 3 terrible teams.
Yeah. No, I think do we have
4? Did I count this right?
All right. Let's see. I got next up. I'm taking the. What if Wemby's him? What if Wemby is him? And he plays all the games. They don't rest him. Coach Pop is like, hey, we tanked one time. I'm never doing it again. And then Wembayama goes out there. They got the other Jones, bro. Trey Jones leading the way. Devin Vassell, another year with him. Keldon Johnson. You know, I don't know. I could see it. I could see them being frisky and being a little bit competitive. So I'm going to take San Antonio because I don't want to take Houston. That's kind of why I'm taking San Antonio. I think Houston's probably, I don't want to talk about Houston in case that's the next pick.
So I think it's a great pick. I think if Wemby's that guy, if he's just like, if he's on the scale of, I'm trying to think of like NBA rookies, like Yao Ming or Alonzo Mourning, Like not even going to LeBron James level. A lot of these guys, they showed up day one and they added 10 wins.
Right.
And if you go from 25 wins to 35 wins, guess what? You're in the play-in race.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a very good pick. Even if the Spurs might want to bottom out later in the year.
Yeah.
I think absolutely that's the correct pick.
One thing I thought that was funny, the news last week about the Spurs are going to be starting Wembanyama at the 4, and it was funny. A lot of chatter. They were like, "Oh yeah, he's too thin to be playing that 5. He's not big enough to play that 5." And I'm like, "Oh, who do they have at the 5? Zach Collins, famously thick Zach Collins."
They did promise Zach Collins the starting role last year, so they're just all they're doing is keeping their promise.
I love that. I love that. This is a promise league. Ask James Harden and Daryl Morey.
Yeah. All right, so you took the Spurs. Now I have to make sure.
I feel like I'm missing teams. I feel like we're down to 2 teams. Am I wrong there?
All right. This will definitely make the final cut of the show. All right. So with your taking of the Spurs, Mike, you leave me the final 2 teams, and those teams are the Rockets and the Nuggets. And I'm okay with the Rockets. They're going to be motivated. They've got Dylan Brooks, but I think they're not likely to make the playoffs, or at least the play-in, compared to the teams we pick. So our final tally of teams, as I briefly realized I forgot to write down the Kings for you and the Lakers. So you have, all right, so Mike's picks, and this is we're wagering a breakfast. The teams most likely to make the play-in. Mike, you have the Timberwolves, the Grizzlies, offensively with your second pick. The Timberwolves, the Grizzlies, the Kings, the Mavericks, the Warriors, the Trailblazers, and the Spurs. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And my picks are the Pelicans, the Thunder, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Suns, the Jazz, the Rockets, and the Nuggets.
The glaring mistake is taking the Grizzlies over.
You could have gotten them so much later.
Yeah, it is. You
could have pocketed the Thunder earlier. You probably could have gotten away with the Clippers or something.
Yeah, I was too excited.
Well, Mike, thanks for coming on. A lot of fun. You're a great sport as we did.
Thank you for having me.
Exercise. Where can people check out your NBA coverage?
Yeah, so we do a daily show every day. That's what daily means on YouTube. It's at Team Hold. The show's called the NBA Bit, and it's just kind of general NBA hang with a comedic lens over everything. And then you can also find me on Twitter at Mike Zakarian, which was very creatively named.
Very, very creatively. And I'll have that spelling on the show's description, which you're looking at. Anyways, Mike, thanks for coming on. It was a lot of fun. I look forward to you coming on again sometime.
Thanks.